Okay, so we're going to get started. There's going to be more people jumping on the call. Um, and but we're going to get started. So this is a webinar specifically about inventory management. I'm going to go ahead and start with, I'm actually going to start with a poll. I want to find out, how is everybody handling their inventory management? What are the types of things that they're doing to handle their inventory management? First of all, I should probably ask, can you hear me? Type something into the chat and let me know that you can hear me. And that'll actually be the first bit of housekeeping. Okay, good. Mark says yes. Patsy says hi. Okay, wonderful. Very good. All right, so we actually have Q&A. Okay, wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start by launching a poll. I'm inventory management, as geeky as it is, inventory management is actually a topic that I'm very passionate about, actually. And if you notice, there's someone sitting over here. This is Ari. So he's just going to be helping out with any of the comments and things like that in the chat. But yes, inventory management is something that I'm really passionate about, and I wanted to share a little bit about why that is. So I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll so we kind of get a baseline for who we're talking to on this call, and then we will get rolling. So go ahead and you see that poll that's launched there. Just basically, how do you currently manage your inventory, right? So go ahead and submit your answer. We'll wait a couple of minutes for those replies to come in, and that way we kind of have an idea. My spoiler alert, my best guess is that most people are managing their inventory on Excel. So that's actually a very, very common thing that we have seen throughout the industry, is a lot of people just simply use trusty old Excel to be able to figure out what their inventory needs are. Okay, good. So we've got 5 out of 13. There's Ari. Okay. Yeah, so we've got yes. So 6 out of 13 have answered. So it looks like 83% of those who have answered are using Excel. So this is not surprising at all. So yeah, so this was something that we were doing as well. We even tried to get a little bit fancier and use a program called Airtable, which I like to call Excel on crack. And even that was causing some difficulties. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. I have a presentation. If you have any questions, post your questions in the chat as we go along, and as they're relevant, I will answer them. If not, we'll save them till the end, and we'll get everything answered at the end. All right. Okay, so let me share my screen with you. Okay. Wonderful. Yes. So this is Pro Amazon Inventory Secrets to increase your bottom line. So these are best practices that we've found over the years to keep in stock and avoid making costly inventory mistakes. So I wanted to start by sharing a little bit about myself. So I've been selling on Amazon for 5 years now, and I have been working with Amazon sellers. I'm also a copywriting expert, have spoken on stage at several different events, on podcasts. I have a successful copywriting service as well. And then I have created a program called SoStocked. And that was really, it started as solving my own problems. So I wanted to kind of introduce myself and to tell you a little bit about what was I actually facing. So what were my struggles, and why did I feel like inventory management was something that I had to tackle? I like looking at numbers, and I kind of have a background as a bookkeeper. numbers have always been interesting to me. I'm one of those people that is really weird and geeks out on things like sales tax. You know, I'd have people like go to, you know, Amazon events, and I would be the one talking about sales tax, and people would like crowd around me because they were interested in these really geeky, nerdy things that no one was talking about. So now I feel like I'm that way with inventory management. The things that were going on when I was first getting into really digging into inventory management was we had for one example, we early on in our business had $10,000 worth of inventory that we sent too late. We sent it a new shipping method, and it ended up getting stranded at Amazon. It was lost at Amazon because it had arrived just after the point at which your Amazon was accepting inventory. So just after the cutoff period, and $10,000 worth of inventory, which at the beginning of our business, a year and a half into our business, was a huge deal to us. That was basically our entire Christmas was lost in an inventory management mistake. And then there was another occasion where we had stocked out. We'd lost a month's worth of income from our top seller from stocking out of inventory. Another time we had a new product that we over ordered. We spent, I think, 2.5 years getting rid of that product. We over ordered to a gross degree. Had paid thousands of dollars in Amazon storage fees and loan interest for this one mistake on this one over order on this product. And then also we had an occasion where we had a holiday inventory order, and we looked at past sales from last year, and we go, okay, this is what we did last year, so we're going to order about that same amount. Well, we didn't factor in that the previous year we had been mentioned on a morning news show, and we had one day where we sold $40,000 worth of product, completely like a freak thing, but we forgot to factor that out of our whole holiday order the next year. That's something that you can't really, you can't plan on something like that. So we grossly over ordered for that holiday season, that following holiday season, and again, paid thousands in storage fees and loan interest. Comment in the chat if any of this sounds familiar, if you have any of these or similar inventory nightmares. I'd be interested to see, if you can comment in the chat, let me know if anything like this has ever happened to you. Let's see. Okay, we've got yes, yes. Sounds familiar. Been there, over ordering. Yes. So, so unfortunately, pretty much anyone who sells on Amazon is going to have inventory management issues. The challenge then is, how do you get these under control so they happen far less often? And how do you get these systems in place so that you don't spend, the next 5 years of your business really kind of, oscillating between over ordering and stocking out? All right, so I knew that I needed a solution, right? So about around a year and a half ago, I started thinking, I've got to find a solution to this problem. Like, I've got to, if I'm going to actually scale up my business, I have to get control of my inventory management. I can't be 5 years into my business not having a handle on this thing. It was actually 3.5 years into my business and not have a handle on this. I call it death by paper cuts. These are the things that nobody really talks about. You talk about launching, you talk about ranking, you talk about launching, you talk about ranking, you talk about product selection, you talk about sponsored ads. You talk about all of these things that drive the engine of your business, drive forward sales, but nobody talks about these hidden things that could really cave in your business, these hidden costs and these hidden mistakes that really are, because they're not up front and center, we don't focus on them, and there's not a lot of webinars about them. And so we just kind of push them aside, and we kind of are in panic management a lot of the time when it comes to inventory management. So I want to kind of get you guys to a point where you can actually understand how better to manage your business and how important this is. So around about this time that I was looking for a solution, about 2 months or 2 weeks after I decided I needed to find a solution, I decided that I needed to actually build something out. And then 2 weeks later, I met this guy. So this is my business partner. This is Dan Fernandez. And the thing that stood out to me immediately is that I had heard of Dan's company. I'd heard of Thomason.com, and if you've been around, for the past, say, 4 or 5 years on Amazon, you probably have heard of Thomason. And Thomason is a company, is a brand influencer connector. And so basically, they help to connect companies to influencers online to help to get more visibility for products. And at one point, they became really big in the Amazon space for helping to get video reviews. And so there are a lot of video reviews that people were getting using Thomason.com. And of course, the thing that really impressed me about Dan was that I heard of Thomason, I knew them, I had used them before, but the whole reviews purge happened about 4 years ago. And so a huge portion of what a lot of businesses were doing and getting these video reviews and getting these reviews for Amazon, they were no longer allowed and able to do that. And the fact that Thomason was still like around, thriving and surviving was huge for me. I was very impressed when I met Dan. And funny enough, so he's a serial SaaS builder, the software as a service builder. And we hung out that weekend, and he spent the whole weekend complaining about how bored he was and that he needed a new software project. And so I was sitting here going, I've got a project for you. So that's kind of how we met. And that was about 1.5 years ago. And that was how SoStocked was created. So I'm not, telling you this for any other reason, but to kind of paint the picture of why, what my journey with inventory management has been, and, kind of where my mindset has been at, and why, I can bring this data to you. Because essentially for the past 1.5 years, Dan and myself and our team have been eating, sleeping, and breathing Amazon inventory management. So we've been testing inventory management softwares. So, many of the popular softwares out on the market, we've tested them all, seen how they worked, seen how they haven't worked. And we've surveyed and worked with dozens of 7- and 8-figure Amazon builders, and essentially crowdsourced information to best understand what it takes to create some good inventory management. What are people doing in terms of inventory management? We have gotten to, look into other people's businesses, look at, other people's Excel spreadsheets, and really figure out what is it that people are looking at that help them to stay in stock and to properly forecast their business. So what are all those facets that make up a good inventory management? And what are some of the key things that stood out? Do we have any questions? Okay, good. Okay, so this is a disclaimer. So I may not blow your mind today. Okay, so inventory management it's not super complex. So I may not blow your mind today, but if I do my job right, I will change your mind. And I say that because there's something that's happening out there in the inventory management space and the forecasting space that really bothers me. And that's the fact that a lot of companies out there make you think that inventory management and forecasting is super complicated. Now, there are a lot of bells and whistles, there are a lot of variables, but this idea that there is the one formula and the one forecast and the one algorithm that's going to solve all your problems, the magic number that's going to be the answer for every single business, every single SKU, it just is not the case. And for you to get into a software and you can't understand how they came up with the numbers, you're supposed to just blindly follow it. I want to kind of get that out of your mind. So inventory management is definitely multifaceted, but it should be something that you can wrap your head around. So I want to kind of change your view on one, that you need a complex algorithm to be able to calculate your your inventory needs, and two, that it's just something that kind of, you know, happens in the background and it's not really, I want to change your viewpoint on your focus, on how integral it is to your business to be able to really get this dialed in and maybe put a little bit more time into understanding it and figuring out a way to manage it. All right, so it's the boring things that nobody talks about that will make you the most money in the long run. All right, so there are a lot of, you know, we call them sexy things, right? Sexy subjects regarding Amazon. You know, it's the webinars that everybody wants to make. It's the webinars that everyone's putting out. It's, you know, launching, you know, it's ranking, it's launching, it's ranking, it's, you know, product development, all of these things. But the amount of money that can be lost from inventory management mistakes it can make or break a business. So it's a very boring subject, essentially, but it is something that really deserves a lot of your time. So the more control you have on your business, the more income you can create. If you're really going to scale your business, you are going to have to put strict control in on inventory management. All right, so I talk about three simple problems, right? So to kind of get a baseline, the majority of how people are managing, a lot of top sellers are looking at averages. When they're looking at estimating their inventory needs, they're looking at average monthly sales, average sales for 60 days, for 90 days, for 180 days, looking at averages. And so that's kind of how we're going to be addressing this issue. Now, comment in the chat in terms of, are you looking at, what types of averages are you looking at when you're doing your inventory management or your forecasting? When you're forecasting for your orders, are you looking at 30 days? Are you looking at 60 days? Are you doing something else? Let's see. 2, 7, and 15, sometimes 30. Okay, yeah, and sometimes if you've got, you know, wholesalers tend to also look at smaller numbers of days, but it generally is looking at an average or is looking at an average of averages, right? And so you're always looking at past sales data. Generally, that's kind of the theme, is there's some sort of past sales data that's being looked at. So it could even be that, you know, you're looking at, what did I do this time last year, right? So we understand, you know, we've all understand that in looking at our business, there's certain things that we look at, but there's a couple of things that occur that if you don't keep these in mind and you don't keep these under control, they actually can destroy everything. And this is something that we found in just looking at the straight numbers. If you're just looking at the straight numbers, you can actually be overlooking some pretty important things. Okay, so the first one is under ordering, right? So we gotta, you know, essentially there's three different things. There's under ordering, there's over ordering, and then there's cutting it too close, right? Not ordering soon enough so your stuff doesn't get there on time. So we're gonna address those three problems and the hidden issues underlying those problems that if you're not paying attention to them, those can actually hurt your business significantly. So these are the things that it's very difficult to pull these out of your business, and these can be the things that trip you up. So in terms of under ordering, I'd like to put together an example. So there's something called factoring stockouts. So it can often happen if you're looking at past history. So maybe you're looking at what you did, you know, this time last Christmas, and you're going to make your Christmas order. What did I do last Christmas? Well, you could be forgetting, because that's like 6 months ago. You could be forgetting that you stocked out, you know, right before Christmas, you stocked out for a week or something like that. Or, you know, if you're looking at your 180, 90, and 60 days, maybe you stocked out 90 days ago. So here would be an example of this. you have, say, 100 units a day, and that's your average sales velocity, is 100 units a day. Then you go to place a 2-month order. You end up ordering 6,000 units because you have 100 units a day, 60 days is a 2-month order is 6,000 units. Now we get into what happens if you're actually have stockouts. How drastically does that affect your velocities? So if you had a stockout for 2 weeks in the last 60 days, but you didn't factor it in, and think about this, if you've got a VA who's doing your forecasting, are they thinking about all of these things? Sometimes, you know, it's enough for us to keep all of these things in our head and remember all of these things. That's, first of all, you know, when you're running, basically you're running the entire show, your entire business is built upon your own actions or your own, you know, keeping everything in your head, and then you have to pass it off to your VA. Are they actually factoring that 2-week stockout into the calculations of your business? So if you're looking at a 30-day to 180-day average, and you're averaging out all 4 of those averages, you've got an average velocity of, it ends up being 88.3 units a day. So instead of being 100 units a day, your velocity calculation is thrown off to 88 units, and your order is no longer 6,000 units, but 5,298 units. Say you round it up to 5,500 or what have you. If you place that order, your order is 700 units short. So if you've got a profit of $5 per unit, you would be losing $3,500 on that monthly order. And then you get into scrambling. All of a sudden you're running out of inventory. You weren't expecting to place an order, and now all of a sudden you're scrambling to have to place that order, to fulfill that order. So you're not only losing out on the revenue, then you end up having to place a rush order. You have to airship it. And then you have to, if you run out of inventory, you have to re-rank it. These are all things where, you know, you get surprised. You not all of the time are you getting surprised by a velocity change. You get surprised because you didn't factor these things in. So there has to be a way to figure out your stockouts and to factor your stockouts into your calculations. This was a thing that became very clear to us, and one of the reasons that we were running out of stock is we would not factor these things into our equation. So does anybody have a system right now where they track stockouts? If you can comment in the chat, let me know if you have a system that you're currently using to track stockouts. Is this something that you have been aware of as something that your business needs? Let's see. No one yet. No comments yet. Okay. All right, so let me show you something that we did to be able to track stockouts. So this is something that I have not been able to really find a way to handle this. I haven't been able to find a way to track my stockouts, and you know, in terms of Amazon doesn't give you enough data. So if you've got other softwares that you're using, you know, that have graphs and things like that, you might be able to locate and isolate stockout periods and then factor those days out. But what we ended up doing, I'll show you an example of what we ended up doing. What are the solutions that we ended up creating to be able to factor these in? And so this is the dashboard for SoStocked, which is what we built out. And essentially, you know, in terms of stockouts, I'll show you an example of what that looks like, is the ability to actually pull out and identify stockouts. So you're actually able to pull out the pattern. So the thing that I want to kind of note in a stockout is that you actually have to pull out the entire period, right? So when you're identifying stockouts, you can't forget, you know, whether you use a software or you do this manually, you can't forget, you can't just look at the time that your inventory was out of stock. You actually have to look at the sales volume, because you'll see that there'll be, a couple of days before you run out of stock, if you sell 100 units a day and then you sell 20 in one day, that's going to throw your entire average off. So you have to get the entire stock out pattern. And what Amazon does, if you don't close your account, is they'll find inventory and they'll use that inventory and they'll count that as an in-stock day. So, whether you're doing it using Excel or you're using a software, you need to know how are they calculating their stockouts. Are they just including that you have no inventory at Amazon, or are they actually including, are they actually doing a calculation that will exclude days such as this where Amazon sells 1 unit because they found 1 unit that was lost and they were able to then find it and sell it during your stock out? Because this entire period from December 19th to January 29th, this was stocked out. And so it is extremely important that you're able to factor these stockouts into your equations. Otherwise, your entire forecast is going to be off. So if you're pulling hard data from Amazon, especially if you're looking at, this time last year, if I'm ordering for Christmas this time last year, I need to be able to, I'm not going to, how often are you going to be able to remember that you stocked out this time last year? So it's extremely important. The other thing that this would factor in is this would be able to identify stock out periods. So if you're looking only at, did you have inventories in stock or did you not? It won't get stock out periods. So whatever software you're using, if you're using Forecastly, if you're using, Restock Pro, you need to understand what are the rules that make up a stock out. So, that was one thing that really became evident to us, is that it's extremely important to understand the rules surrounding any of these softwares. All right, the next problem is over ordering. So in over ordering, there is something that comes up that becomes very detrimental to your calculations as well. So again, if you're pulling hard data, you need to look at something called sales spikes. Sales spikes are those kind of freak moments that occur that will throw off all your numbers. The most popular sales spikes would be like Prime Day. So if you've got Prime Day numbers and then you're trying to order for September, you actually have to remove Prime Day from your calculations. Okay, so we'll go into the same scenario. This 100 units a day, you order 6,000 units, right? Now, what happens if you had this huge lightning deal and you sold 4,000 units in one day? And that happened 90 days ago, over 90 days ago. And you're not really thinking with it, but it's factoring into your calculations. Well, your average monthly velocity would then go up from 100 units per day to 116.7 units per day. And your monthly order would go up to 7,000 units. Now, all of this doesn't seem like a lot, 700 units short, 1,000 units, extra, but to really look at the numbers, and this is kind of where I want to go, changing your mindset to really look at the numbers and the cost of all of these little tiny, what seem to be tiny errors, right? 1,000 units. What the cost is, the opportunity cost, the lost opportunity cost, for example. If you place an order of 7,000 units instead of 6,000 units, you're over ordering by 1,000 units. And if the cost per unit is $5 per unit, then you've got $5,000 in tied up capital, right? So that's $5,000 tied up that you could be using for something else. Perhaps you could be using it for another product, investing in another product that gives you a 200% return on investment. That tied up money is actually a $10,000 loss to you. Not to mention the storage fees and the Amazon lending loan interest that you're paying on 1,000 units that you didn't need to borrow. So if you've got $5,000 additional, that's how sales spikes can hurt, and that's how those additional units, you know, even though it's just 1,000 units, how that can really hurt. When we're in a cash flow business, it's all of these little things. And I say again, death by paper cuts. It's all of these little things. Because what if you ordered an extra 1,000 units on one product and it caused you to have a cash flow problem that then caused you to delay ordering another product, right? How many times have you delayed ordering because you had a cash flow issue? This is one of the most predominant problems in an inventory-based business, is cash flow issues driving our decision making, and things like tied up inventory then having this ripple effect where you've got $5,000 in tied up inventory, then you wait and you delay your order on one of your top sellers because you just don't have the cash available because it's tied up in inventory that's not moving, and then you place the order late and then you have to air ship it. And so all of these elements tie in together, right? The over ordering ties into the under ordering, ties into the not ordering soon enough. And that's our final problem, cutting it too close. This is probably one of the top problems that a lot of businesses have, is cutting it way too close, right? They know their business, but they don't factor in any time for anything to go wrong, right? The majority of the time when I talk to sellers, the top reason for stocking out is because they just didn't order soon enough, or it got stuck in customs, or, you know, there was a hurricane in China. There's this pattern of cutting it way too close. So the solution is buffer stock. So what is buffer stock? Buffer stock is, I call it a false zero. So it's something that would trigger you to order before you hit your preset buffer amount. So if you had a buffer stock set for 250 units, you would be warned that you should be ordering so that by the time you hit 250 units, your inventory is arriving at Amazon. So it's not before you hit 0, your inventory is arriving at Amazon. It's before you hit 250 units, your inventory is arriving at Amazon. So what then does that look like in the real world? So what we're able to work out, and this is, let's see, buffer stock. I'm sorry, I didn't show you the sales spike example. The sales spike example is real quick to show you how that's built out. A sales spike example, very importantly, so you're actually able to pull out individual sales days from your forecast, and you can actually look back and see which days had extreme high sales examples, and those pieces and those days can be eliminated from your calculations. So that's all the things that I was working to do to handle my business. All of these things that, you know, you had to be very granular about, that were really affecting my business in a big way. How do we automate those? How do we make those easier to manage? So buffer stock would work like this. So, you know, if you've got an Excel spreadsheet, you're probably similar in that you've got an entire timeline. And this is probably something that you yourself could do. It's important to work everything backwards from your lead time. So when we look at a false zero, this is how this works. Let's say buffer stock is 0. And we're only going to be told before we run out that we need to ship inventory. It gets really complicated to, you know, figure out when are you supposed to order. If you know that your lead time is 62 days, well, you have to be able to figure everything out 60 days beforehand. So you look at when your inventory is going to arrive, and your inventory is going to arrive right before you hit 0, right? So if you have a buffer stock in place, and this could even be done on if you do it on an Excel spreadsheet, you might be able to, like, you know, reduce your inventory by whatever the buffer stock amount is, so that your alerts happen sooner. A lot of people have complicated Excel spreadsheets, but you know, we just chose, I needed to do something different. So we've got where if you add that buffer stock, you see it hits, it allows you to send your inventory in before it hits 100 units. All right. And then the final point is factoring in lightning deals, seasonal sales, and seasonality. So the other factor, if you're looking at your averages, you have to factor in your seasonal sales spikes and your lightning deals. You need to make sure that you're planning for the future. So you need to have a system inside of your Excel spreadsheet or inside of your calculations, whatever you're doing, you need to have a system to be able to plan for these things. So I don't know how many people I have talked to who had to cancel lightning deals because they did not factor their lightning deals into their orders. So that also becomes extremely important. All right, so what is the alternative? Okay, so now what? So if you've got a system in place already, you know, it would be a matter of working out how you are going to work out these additional systems to avoid this constant running out of stock or this constant over ordering by getting sales spikes and stockouts and buffer stocks in place. These are the three things that are really the biggest factors in being able to control your inventory management. These are the equations that are often a lot more granular and hard to identify. So you can do, you know, you can go the way of the revolving door of softwares, right? We've looked into these softwares. Some of them do some really good things. Some of them do some of these things. Some of them don't. But they're all very expensive, and they all end up kind of falling a little bit short, is what we essentially found. So then life goes back to the maze of Excel spreadsheets, right? You're probably very familiar with this. You know, you've got a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, and you can build these out in Excel spreadsheets. It just becomes a matter of how much time do you want to spend on doing all of this. So I say, what are we, cavemen? It got to the point of, you know, well, if, you know, why are we constantly going back to Excel spreadsheets? There was no software out there that could actually handle all of the different data points, all of the different, you know, actually explaining how the numbers were developed, how these numbers came to be, right? You go into, you know, one of these softwares and they had advanced, you know, highly advanced algorithms, you know, calculated by, you know, statisticians and mathematicians, and that's great. But if you can't figure out what the numbers are and why they are the way they are, then you're not going to trust the system. So, you know, the way that I looked at it, we needed a better mousetrap, and we worked with 7- and 8-figure sellers to be able to create one. So we had this aha moment, right? And this aha moment was essentially that inventory management is both a science and an art. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of numbers that are involved in inventory management, but you yourself know more about your business than an algorithm does. You know more about your business than I do. And so you need to be able to adjust every single data point. And that's why Excel has worked so well for so long. And so it's just a matter of taking what was working in, you know, Excel, and that it's fully customizable and it's fully understandable, and then bringing it into the 21st century, right? And that was the problem with most inventory management softwares, is that they were only addressing the science. And this often happens with, you know, some of these techie guys. It's only addressing the science aspect, only addressing the numbers, thinking that the algorithm is king, when we very much know that you know more about your business than an algorithm. And that's how SoStocked was born. You know, if you are interested in SoStocked, we have a special. It's a $59 a month for life. That price is going to go up. We're just basically looking for people who are looking to change what they're doing with their inventory management, who really understand that their business and the scalability of their business, and the money that they are losing within their business has a lot to do with inventory management and how to get a handle on it so that they can more easily control that business. So that was why SoStocked was created. Hopefully, you know, whether or not you decide to try SoStocked, you got some ideas for how you can further incorporate some of these kind of hidden, I guess they're kind of hidden hidden cliffs that you can fall into in your business, right? Beyond that, I'm extremely passionate about supply chain and about finding ways to save money all throughout your supply chain, whether that's shipping or getting a lower price on your inventory or your from your supplier. We have partnered with a company that we're actually doing regular webinar series. Last week we talked about ways to prepare against the coronavirus, and it was the partner we were working with, his name is Afulabi, and he shared some amazing tips on ways to save money after the coronavirus and ways to prepare after the coronavirus epidemic is is over, and what you should be doing so that your business can thrive in this time. The next one we are going to be doing is next week. It's all about Trump tariffs and how to know if you're paying too much. So that's over at SoStocked.com/seller secrets. You want to go ahead and sign up for that. We will be doing ongoing calls. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat right now. It's probably a good idea to kind of post your questions now. But I definitely recommend you taking a look at inventory management and how you could use inventory management as well as sourcing to increase your bottom line, because it's not only about the sales, it's also about the money that you keep. And if you're we've played the game of continually doing whatever we can to stay in stock, whether that's air shipping or ordering too much inventory because we thought we'd get a deal. There's a lot of mistakes that can be made in inventory management. And it's one of those things that, if you can figure out inventory management, you win. I was talking to Ryan Moran, and he said one of the lines in his new book that's coming out is that he who figures out inventory management wins. So it's more important than you think. It's, we are in an inventory-based business. So getting inventory management wrapped up is the thing that could literally make or break your business and can cost you to keep a lot more money in your pocket than you maybe already are doing. All right, we do have a few questions. Patsy says, thank you. You're very, very welcome. A few questions. Fabian asks, is SoStocked supporting multiple Amazon seller accounts? Yes, so SoStocked will support multiple seller accounts. In one account, you will be able to get, your various different marketplaces. So if you've got the UK and you've got the US, we support the UK and the US right now. We're working on getting set up for Australia and Japan, but we're not there yet. And then if you have multiple brands with the same marketplace, for example, you have 2 US accounts, you can sign up for 2 different accounts and then actually connect them and toggle between them in the same way that you do in Amazon Seller Central. If I hooked up SoStocked today, how much past data does it pull from Amazon? It pulls 2 years. Amazon gives 2 years worth of data, so you'll be able to get 2 years worth of data in SoStocked. Free trial available. There currently is not a free trial available. There will be a free trial when we do increase our prices, but for the beta version, it's just you sign up straight away, and that's what we're offering. If we offered a free trial, we would be probably very much flooded, and so we're really working on getting people into the software who want this price locked in for life. There will be a tiered pricing when we launch further. It'll be you're probably 97 up to, you know, 197, all the way up to probably about $400, depending on how big your business is. So this price is locked in, it's forever. No matter how big your business grows, no matter how many features we add to SoStocked. And so that's why we don't have the free trial, because we want to work one-on-one. We do onboarding calls with every single person who signs up. So you'll have a call with me directly and personally. And then we will be able to get your feedback. We've actually worked with our sellers and they've given us feedback, and we take down a list of all the feedback. So you'll have a part in being able to help create what it ends up in the software. And you know, I like to say it's the software that you would build if you could, but now you don't have to. Tim says, what price do you intend to be the final price? The final price will likely start at $97 per month. And then we'll, depending on how many sales you make on a monthly basis, you'll be charged increasingly. So, you know, maybe if you are doing, say, I don't even know, throwing it out there, if you're doing like, you know, 10,000 sales a month, you know, it'll be much higher than, you know, if you're doing, you know, 3,000 sales a month. So it'll probably tier up into, you know, the top tier will probably be 400 or, you know, or more. Just to get you right, we have 3 brands in the US. We need to set up and pay for 3 SoStocked accounts and then connect them. Yeah, so if you have 3 US brands, sign up for 3 accounts. If you do want to set all of those up, we might be able to do a special pricing for additional accounts. We don't always do that, but you can reach out to me if you do have that.
It's per Amazon account. It's not per brand.
No, but he says 3 brands in the US, 3 brand accounts in the US. Yes.
Okay, but sometimes people have multiple brands on the same Amazon account.
Yeah. No, if it's a different Amazon account in the US, then it would be 3 separate accounts. So you can reach out to me at Chelsea@SoStocked.com, and we can kind of help you get set up and figure out how to connect all of that. Wonderful. Okay, great. Thanks so much, guys. And definitely check out the Trump tariffs, and also on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, if you're interested in the video on how to prepare for success after the coronavirus, it was amazing, amazing content from Afulabi on sourcing. You can go over to our YouTube page and check out our coronavirus webinar as well. All right, thanks so much, and I will see you soon. Hopefully see you on the Trump tariffs call. All right, bye-bye.